Okay, perfect. Right. So, I mean, when Chetan had sort of invited me and I had asked him, what should I present or what would people be interested in? And I could obviously show many case studies and I could show other things. And he was, he suggested, why don't you just share your journey? And I was really thinking about it because it's not often that I sort of do a journey discussion, and partly because unlike many designers or many people that you might have met, my journey seems very um, uninspiring, if I can say it that way, is because the first job I got from my college, I took it, and I'm still there. So I passed out in, I joined design in, so I passed out in 97. And since 97, I'm in a company called Tata Elxsi. So if I tell somebody that here I am 25 years in the same company, you typically assume ki, this is a very boring kind of situation. Uh, but I feel that's not the case. And I would like to sort of show that to you. So in the range of things that could happen in your career, whether you set up your own stuff, whether you change across different domains and different companies to grow, or like me, you are sort of in one company. There are many things that can still be interesting within this journey, and I thought I'll just show you some of it and some of the key learnings that I might have got, which might be useful to you. So I would basically like to start off with this entire aspect of the design student part of me, which I guess y'all are also in there. And I was in this design school called IDC, which is Industrial Design Center in IIT Bombay. Chetan is also an alumni of that, and it's one of the best schools in India. So obviously we were very proud, and those were the best years of my life. I mean, that fellow in the white shirt in the middle is me, and I claim that I still look like that. the but aspect of this that you realize as you move on is, and if you look around you and if you sort of acknowledge your classmates, they actually will become your best friends for life. They will be the people who will never judge you later on, irrespective of how good or bad you do in your life. And you can always learn from them, help each other. And even now, all these people, which is my class, are my friends, one of my best friends. And, it's such a joy to meet them again. So, nurture these relationships that you have around you. I think those will be unique. You will never have these kind of situations again. And of course, all the professors and like the teachers. I mean, I was lucky to really have the best of the best because these are the ones who sort of started design education in India. But irrespective of that, I mean, design education itself has become so mature across the world that there's great things to learn from people around you. For me, and I don't know how the classrooms and the situation is there in your college, but for us it was a very strange situation where we had this very beautiful peace, calm and quiet, inspiring sort of a natural environment outside, and we had this absolutely chaotic, unplanned, everybody do whatever they want kind of classroom. So this room, the photo that you see is a classroom. This is where we used to get our lectures, this is where we used to do our projects, this is, each one of us had our own little workspace. And this sort of ability to work in a chaos while surrounded by sort of calmness and inspiration, I think now when I look back, it actually helped me and helped a lot of us to really think differently, think how you can create something good out of a chaotic situation in front of you. And every day we are in this environment, so you can sort of imagine the kind of environment and the thoughts that get built up because somebody is playing music, somebody is doing something else, you're trying to do your sketches, you're trying to do your model. So it's just allowed a much more complex thought to be created, and then the entire design journey would sort of start there. So it was a great, and these are things that I look back and realize that, oh, maybe this is what helped me. Okay. The other thing that I would like to just say about IDC, and it's, you don't realize it, but you get one of the best opportunities. And again, this is something that sometimes you take and sometimes you're given. So I'll give you the example of this photograph that you see of this iMac there. And the reason I put that is, see, this is 1995, right? So the Mac itself was very new. India had just conducted these, nuclear tests, so we were under sanctions. So which means none of this equipment would ever come, and even if it comes, would be very, very expensive. So IIT, being a very premium education institute, was the only one who was allowed to import some high-end computer systems. And this was it. So this must have been 10 times this market price when it landed, let's say, in our studio in the college. But the way the system was set up and the way all of us were there, we had our own freedom, which means I could just pick this little fellow up, take him to my photo studio because I was doing product photography as a side business or a side hobby, and literally just spend hours taking photographs of the Mac. The fact that I could just pick something up which was very valuable and still seemed to be okay for me and for everybody else was something that I realized later on that, oh, it's maybe something. The point I want to make here is we should not be constrained by artificial boundaries. We should not be constrained by assuming that something is not correct or you should not do it or it's wrong, because maybe it's not. And maybe you have to just try it before you're told no. Right? So that's something that I realize again. On the right side, I mean, again, I'm 20 something, and here's my work printed in the best or the biggest daily in India. So this is the Sunday Times, and that was my one of my student projects, which was playground equipment using roto molding as a technique. And we were also invited to the US, so I was selected as a part of a multi-country competition. So where we presented on another project, and that is my professor and one more colleague with me. So the point I want to make here is college creates great opportunities and great time, and those were the best years of my life. But having said all that, you know, after 25 years of graduation, I've realized that and especially if Chaitanya had asked me to just make one slide and not make 20, 30 slides, then this is the slide that I would have made. Right? That whether it's during my college years or even later, I learned unknowingly more than what I learned knowingly. Meaning, I know I would sit in a class and it's a product design or a semantic or some class like that, and there's a professor who's trying to teach me something in that. And yes, of course, I'm learning what he's telling me to learn. But there are so many other things that you learn that you don't realize. I mean, you would be learning the entire art of communication. You'll be learning how to conduct yourself. You'll be learning about other people's projects and other fields. You'll be learning from other departments within your university. So what we learned without knowing we are learning was far, far more than what we learned. And if you keep that attitude or that openness that I'm going to keep learning whatever comes my way, you would be surprised how valuable it can become. So I of course graduated, and there's a software called Alias Wavefront. I don't know if how many of you all know about it. So it's a 3D CAD CAS kind of a software that is typically used for car styling and also animation. So it's Maya is like a subset of Alias. So again, Tatlexi, or let's say IDC, had this software, and I was very good at it. And as a result, I was recruited in this company called Tata Elxsi. And Tata Elxsi as a company, and like I said, I'm still here. Their job, they were like resellers. So their job was to source good hardware and software from across the world and sell it to Indian companies. Now, the issue was that this Alias Wavefront software was very, very, very expensive. So, a single CD would cost at least $500,000, right? And imagine a single license costing $500,000. And so nobody would just automatically come and buy it from you. So they needed to be proven that the software is actually useful and they can really work or help them in their business. And so this is why Tatlexi needed somebody like me. So they needed a designer who used this software so that I can demonstrate to other people how to use the software for their business. So for almost 1 or 2 years, my job was to go to different Indian companies, you know, take my system along with me and you know, install it there and take one of their projects and really show them how the software will help them make their you know, work. So the middle image that you see is an entire ergonomic study that we did, or I did, for Mahindra tractors. The point I wanted to make here is, I mean, as a designer, I should have been resistant to this kind of a job. Meaning, you know, I'm not a salesman, I'm a designer. Why am I going around trying to sell this software? But partly I was naive, partly I was very open minded, saying that I'll just do whatever comes my way. And looking back, this kind of part of my journey really helped me a lot, because through this I really understood almost every business and every industry in India and abroad, in terms of what do they do, what kind of projects they're doing, how can a software help them, and through that really make great friends and great connections across the industry. So that was, and it was great, you know, couple of years where I used to travel around and, you know, do these projects, stay with these companies for half a month. They would have, you know, accommodate me in their hotel. So it was great fun, right? And it also went beyond just design. So you know, Tata Elxsi being what they were, uh, and we were developing our own indigenous fighter jet. So for that, they needed an entire virtual reality system, and Tata Elxsi bought this software, the entire motion tracking, and there's a company called Flock of Birds at the time, and these huge monster computer systems. So I was then sort of sent to try and set it up and work with them. So again, it was unique experiences which I doubt I will get again. And so these were my initial great years, and it was good fun, as you can imagine. And I was happy that, or I'm thankful that I was very open about doing these kind of works. And but what started happening is, like I said, this software was very expensive, which means most of the companies would end up not being able to afford it. But they would all obviously see the benefit of having a good system or a good design system that allowed them to, you know, create something digitally that can go directly to the tooling, and, you know, you can make a product out of it. So they started, you know, saying that, uh, fine, maybe we cannot afford the software, but can you finish the project and go, or can you, we'll pay you for the project, you know. And that's how this entire design services for this company started, where people start saying that you would rather design it for us than sell us the system. And again, I was very open, and we were more than happy to keep sort of doing that. So these were some of my early, let's say, design projects. So this Aquasure water purifier that you see on the left, it's at least 23 years old, and I'm really surprised that they're still selling it in the market. So you know, it's and the brand itself is now a very large brand, and this is their entry level product. But this was, let's say, the first sort of tooled up design work that we did. But otherwise, we did a lot of work for FMCG, for Unilever and Procter and Gamble. So you see a lot of shampoo bottles. Again, automotive was the big customer. So whether it is designing of the seats or designing of what is called as interior trims, you know, headlamps and things like that. So this was the initial part of work. And again, now that we started tasting blood in terms of design services, um, again, Tata Elxsi is a very sales-oriented company, or at least it had the background there, because they were, like I said, resellers. So they realized that there's a lot of need for good people in various studios across the world. So they said, okay, let's see if we can body shop people, because that's what was again happening during that entire you know, Y2K period, during that 2000 period, where they said keep, you know, whereas the various companies, people who know Alias and who are good designers are very rare, so they are able to sell us at a very premium. And again, like I said, I was fairly open-minded. So they said, "Oh, will you work in this company in the UK? Will you work in this company for, you know, you'll be under the Tata Elxsi rules, and we'll get some money from them, and we'll pay you a salary, but we'll make margins off that." Again, either I was too naive or I didn't care, and I was just more happy to take it up and keep learning. So that created almost a 6-year journey of working in various countries, in various studios, and really being again exposed to the best of the best, and really beautiful environments. So I spent a lot of time in UK. So I was in a company called Fitch. We were designing. In fact, at the time they had won this big project for street furniture design for Rio de Janeiro. So I was heavily involved in that. So we designed a lot of bus stops and dustbins and all of that. Then I spent a long time in Seymour Powell, which is again a design firm in UK. Then in Unilever, where we were doing a lot of these packaging. So everywhere the way I used to work was I used to be among the first designers to be sent, and luckily the client used to get impressed. They said, "Oh, send me 10 more of such people." So we would sort of create a larger pool of people then, and I would sort of move on to the next customer. So I was that way very lucky to keep getting different opportunities like this. So that was UK. Then this is US. So these were my classmates. So many of the people, my friends and classmates, started joining us in Tarlaxi, and then we used to roam around the world. So you can imagine the fun we had. So a lot of time in automotive studios. So this was the General Motor Studios. We were working on various clay models, and again, if you understand the automotive field, the sort of a digital sculptor or a alias designer's job is very interesting. I mean, fine, you may not be doing the initial styling sketches, but to convert and translate that sketches into actual sculpted surfaces, which then will be made and cut on clay, and then sort of you get to see how it will look, and then modifying and keep iterating at it. That's the entire journey of a car or a car design, and alias designer is very much in the heart of it. So again, it was great fun. And again, just to sort of repeat the point, so here I was not doing pure creative work, unlike let's say the other places. Here I was translating somebody else's design intent into a usable form. But I was happy to learn that experience. I was happy to go down this path, and I was happy to learn, happy to sort of just go through this exposure. And that again in the later years has really helped me heavily, because uh, you become very very sensitive in terms of forms and shapes and fillets and highlight lines. So there are so many aspects of design that you learn, even when you put aside your creativity and start working on the skill part of it. And that's where some of these really helped me. So again, did a lot of similar work in Germany. So there was a company, I mean, the Ford, they have a big studio in Cologne, a beautiful place. So a great kind of work. Again, a lot of my friends also joined Tadlix and came there. So again, it was a great time, right? China, again, China was a completely different experience. You get to learn a lot in terms of how the people are, how aggressive everybody can be, how really optimistic and driven they are towards the future. So and I again, no, I cannot show you any images of the work there, just that some of the fun that I had. And finally, Japan again, there's a company called, or there's a software called ISIM Surf, which is what is called as class A surfacing, which again is a very it's similar to this. It's just that the quality of surface is at a order of level better. But again, the point I wanted, in fact, here I would like to narrate a story about how some of these studios work and some of the fun insights that you get. So I was in a company called Nissan, and Nissan has a obviously big styling studio in Japan, but they also have a good and a big styling studio in UK. And there was a very big initiative of the next platform and the next design for the next key vehicle. And what they had done, what the management had done, they had given the same brief to the Japanese team and to the UK team. And the idea was that we would design and get the mock-up and get the first sort of 1:1 vehicle ready, and then the management would sort of decide which one to go ahead with, and that team would sort of take it further. And so it was a very prestigious thing. So Japan being and Japanese being what they are, we really slogged and worked very very hard. And as you can sort of imagine, in whenever you're doing a vehicle design, there are a lot of constraints, there are a lot of hard points, there are a lot of ergonomic and other aspects that have to be adhered to, whether it's the edge point or whether it is your vision or whether it is the the radii of the interior surfaces. So there are many aspects, and many of these practical aspects constrain the design. And the Japan team was always within rules and always very high quality of work. So they did a good vehicle, but they didn't break any rules. The UK team was much more flowing, and they ignored many of the rules, and they did a vehicle that they really wanted and they liked. And as you can imagine, the vehicle that UK team did was much better looking and much more inspiring than the one that Japan team did. Partly because they sort of cut corners and did so many things that were, let's say, outside the existing expectations. And obviously they won. I mean, those Japan team really cried and they were very unhappy. But the point I wanted to make was, if you bring in too many rules and too many constraints right at the initial creative stage, then obviously you lose out. And that's what I saw, I learned, and something that I will remember. So after all this, I sort of came back, I settled down, I got a house, I'm still there, so it is, the trees have grown. So this is where I'm currently talking from. Um, but now what happened is also, as a company, as a design studio, we started doing bigger and bigger projects. So, because as you can imagine, if we have designers who have worked in various studios abroad and come back, the confidence and the knowledge that we have and what we can tell new clients, saying that I have done this, I've spent so many years in studios, I can design it for you. So that sort of translates into new business, which is what I started doing. So the top vehicle that you see was the first complete vehicle that we designed. So this was for Tata Motors. So there was an existing sort of chassis that needed to be completely revamped for a military requirement, which is something that we did. And also the other point thing that I've written over here, where I think now I'm a manager. Now, what I've also learned and what I've realized is, as an individual contributor or as your own person, there's a limit to how much impact and how much you can get done or how much can you do, because there are only so many hours. I mean, you might be the fastest guy on the sketch and you might be very clear in terms of thoughts, but still there's only so much you can do. And your bandwidth and your ability to grow in life only happens when you're able to increase the span of your influence. So if you're able to really get more and more people and give them directions and get things done, then you actually have a much larger impact in the environment or in life or in your company than what you do even as a best single person. And that's what started to happen. That's what I really thrived on. So while I'm showing all these images, the actual 3D models or the actual sketches or actual designs were done by people working for me. In fact, almost um, all the work that I'll show from here would be done by my teams, but I had a heavy influence in where it was going, what they were doing, how they were doing, how quickly they were doing, what is the way to do it, what is the process. So you, as a manager, you start thinking about design processes, about how to choose a good design versus bad, how to sell design, how to defend your design. There are so many other aspects that you get to do and get to learn because now you have bandwidth or you have time to do something more. In fact, just before we start this call, I was talking to Chetan, and the essential art of delegation, if I can say so. Many times I've seen that designers can be slightly insecure, saying that no, this is my territory. I will only do it. I'm the best anyway. So why should somebody else do this? And what happens with that is, unless somebody else will do your work, you will not get time to do something else. So the faster that somebody else can do your job, the better it is for you to grow, because you will do the next level of work only because somebody else is now doing what you're doing today. And that is something that I've really learned and I've really thrived on. So almost And what I would hope to show you in the next few slides is the progression of the quality of work that and the span of work that we're doing. So the more and more larger projects we were able to take because certain aspects were now taken up by individual people who also started growing the way, let's say I was growing, where they knew how to delegate, they knew what to take themselves, and that sort of allowed faster growth, better consistency in quality, and many projects to be done. So, and the other aspect is the breadth of work, because that's another great aspect of being in a design agency. uh, you are a designer, which means your job is to essentially create products that will resonate with the end consumer. And these, sorry, there's a helicopter going here. So these products can be vehicles, can be digital products, can be marketing products, can be appliances, FMCG, could be anything. So on the left side was a great project that we did for Unilever. This is Walls. This is their new ice cream cart, and a version of this is still out there. And it was a great exercise. And but I'll just tell you a couple of sort of insights here, a couple of aspects that helped this project and helped me. I mean, I've not talked about research yet, but this is one example where research really made a big difference. Now, if I give you a background of this particular product, which is an ice cream cart, essentially these ice cream carts are what is called as charged in the night. So, which means the temperature within them is brought down to minus 18 degrees, and there are certain eutectic plates inside that sort of hold the temperature for about 8 hours. And after that, you need to sort of charge them again so that the ice cream or the cart can go cold again. So, which means when they're out in the field, they're trying to sell, they are sort of losing, or they're slowly warming up, and essentially towards the end, the ice cream is in the fear of melting. So while designing up, I mean, of course, we were designing the form and the shape and the brand and the visual identity and all aspects, but we were also worried on the technical aspects of how do I make this last longer? How do I make the entire interaction between the seller and these little kids who will be running around? How do I sort of make it work better? So we did many small things, whether it is a place to keep change, or how to organize the ice creams within the thing. But one of the things that we observed during research was kids would keep changing their minds. So they would say that I want a chocolate cornetto, and the fellow will dig inside his cart, remove a chocolate cornetto. But some other kid will have take something else, and this fellow will change his mind, saying that, oh no, I also want, let's say, whatever. So almost 3 or 4 times the kid would change his mind. 3 or 4 times he will open the lid to change the ice cream. And as you can imagine, the moment you open the lid, it loses some of its temperature, and you have a steady deterioration. So how do you sort of try and solve that? So of course we did a great sort of visual menus that you can see hanging there. But if you see the small left image on the left side, we did a little bit of a glass window kind of a vesicular kind of a display, which means all the ice creams that are out there, we show them as a exhibit. So that allows not only the kid to discuss with each other and sort of pick what they want by looking at it, but also certain other ice creams or certain new launches start getting exposure because now they can be seen. And this little simple window really solves so many problems, whether it's new launches, whether it is the time that the ice cream will work, or the entire aspect of a completely new unique design. So, I mean, that way, each one of these projects, can become are a big case study in themselves. But I just remembered this and I thought I'll bring it up. And if you now contrast that with the images on the right, it's a completely different kind of project. So this was for LG. And what used to happen was, in India, LG was always and only known for their, let's say, washing machines. And so only when you want a washing machine would somebody go to a LG showroom. So, and LG had so many other products that were just, they were finding it hard to really sell that. So we came up with this idea of showroom on wheels. And what we did was we took a bus chassis and we completely transformed the interiors of a bus to make it like a interiors of an apartment. And then we sort of decorated the interiors of this apartment with working LG products and made it look like a swanky little house. And then we created an entire service design sort of an event around it where this bus would go and park outside one of these big societies, and there would be flyers given out saying that, oh, here you can come here, have a look at what we have to offer, plus if you have any other service requirements, plus there's a discount, plus maybe there's some little price or something like that. So through this, suddenly the footprint and footfalls of people who would normally not go to LG showroom increased dramatically. So it was a great achievement for them and a great project for us. So through this, we have done at least 10 other similar bus projects, right from hospital on wheels to training on wheels to this showroom on wheels. So you can imagine. So it opened a complete new vista of projects for us. Okay. So again, I mean, I have a series of these kind of variety of projects. So whether it is dealerships and showrooms, street furniture, ATM environments, so lots of projects, and we were uh, we were very aggressive or very enthusiastic about trying to find new opportunities. So many of these projects were not customers looking for a designer, because many times during this time, India was still immature in terms of design and what design can do. So half the time you are selling what design is and what it can do, and then converting customers through these kind of environments or these kind of engagements. So a lot of these projects were completely, of course, not L'Oreal, but apart from L'Oreal, almost every other project was something that they didn't really want, but they were convinced because we met them. And again, you can imagine the fun we had, sort of creating pitches and selling these entire design dreams to people. You know, again, we did not restrict ourselves to India. Also, Tata Elxsi has a good engineering set of people. So currently, uh, we have a lot of good software and mechanical engineers, so that allowed us to create these complete integrated projects. So this top series of images that you see is a work that we did for Hasbro. So this little doll was launched in Japan, and essentially it's like it has a beat detector, so it will dance based on what music is playing, and it has a speaker inside it. And we designed the entire aspect in terms of how we can just use a single motor, but a very series of different kinds of actuators and gear system to have 10 different types of motions through a single, let's say, motor sequence. So that was something very interesting. On the right side was we created a fairly difficult work, which was a transformer toy. So this guy would be able to skate. And of course, lots of Unilevers and lots of projects like this. We also started doing research as a service. So this was a great project, and you can imagine the first one that the first strip that you see. Uh, and now what was happening was we started having accounts. So Unilever, for example, became a trusted client who then explore and push us to keep doing new things for them. So while we were doing FMCG design, graphic design for them for a long time, they said, oh, we want to know how people eat ice cream across the world. We have the same brands in 3 4 continents, and we would like to know how people react differently. So again, it was a great research project where we went to almost 8 different cities across the world and really dug deep to understand what are the buying habits, what are the eating habits, what are the storing habits, across these people for the same set of products, same set of ice creams. And it was a great learning. Also, when it comes to research, we were also very aggressive, and we are, in terms of trying to create what is called as trend analysis and market analysis. We've always been, or I have always been saying that design is much more than just creating an object or creating a product. Design essentially is understanding people, understanding where they will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and our knowledge of technology and products or the abilities around us allow us to create this roadmap for what should be the products and services for the future. Because we understand what people need, we understand where technology can go, and then we can create this entire scenario. So we love doing these kind of projects now, and I'm doing quite a heavily bit of this kind of a forecasting and trend kind of work. So a lot of that. Also, we, I mean, saying let's get serious. We were fairly serious by this time anyway. But as a company, Tartlex is a software company. It was doing so many other things. But now we started being known for our design. So our managing director decided to give us the largest space within our studio. So Chetan, I think, was here. So I designed this entire space. So what you see on the top left image was the typical Dilbert style cubicles. That the way it was. It was a typical software company, and I just demolished all of that. And what you see in the main image is the studio that we have now. And I would just like to tell one aspect about the design of the studio, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. See, I was very clear that, and by this time we had a very large 100 plus 150 kind of design team, and I was very clear that designers have to sit amongst each other. They have to collaborate with each other. There's so much of serendipity in terms of what you learn or what can happen. At this stage, we were having many parallel projects going on, and unless you are able to help each other, participate in each other's projects, I mean, it should feel like a college. So, which meant an open plan kind of a seating. So, which means, it's very easy for somebody to just walk across or have these table breakout areas where you just sit and discuss rather than booking a meeting room. So, designing of a open plan office was very clear. But what happens in this open plan office is it tends to get very noisy. So, imagine 100, 200 plus people sitting in one hall. It would get noisy. It is quite disturbing, and it will not really serve the function of efficient workspace. And I was really thinking of how do I solve this? And what I did, which has worked out surprisingly well, is I decided to dim the lights. So the lux or the light within the studio is quite low. It's quite, it's almost like a high-end restaurant. I mean, every stable also has its own work lamp, kind of, sort of table lamp. But overall, the studio lights are dim. And because what I had realized that when you dim the lights, you talk in hushed tones. You talk softly if the lights are soft. I mean, as an experiment, I would suggest you all do this. In the night when you're sleeping, turn on the music. And what are songs that you want? I mean, put a timer so that you can sleep to the music. And when you turn off the lights, you'll suddenly feel that the music is much louder. If you'll have been through that, you'll definitely remember this. If not, try it out. It is quite a phenomenon. The same song sounds much louder, much clearer, just when you turn off the light. And exactly the same thing works over here in a reverse way. When the lights are dim, people just automatically talk softly. And that allowed us to have 200 people here all humming softly, and it creates a great environment. And we're really proud of it. And even now, it's a fairly unique space within the company. We of course also expanded in various geographies. We have a London design studio. We have activities in Japan, in US. So all started happening. We started having a large team. So this is at least 5 years ago or 10 years ago, not 5 years ago. So now my team is even more. So like I was telling Chetan, we have more than 250 creative designers. The design department has, as such, has more than 1,000 people. With engineers, prototype people, ethnographers. So large set of, and it's a great, you respect each other. Everybody comes with their own positives and negatives, and it becomes a great environment. Because what I've seen with, and maybe Chetan and Sundar all might have felt this, designers tend to sort of get lonely because they will be one or two people of a large team in one product organization or one company somewhere. Because if you look at a product company, whether you're making toasters or you're making widgets, uh, a designer will generate enough work for 100 engineers or 10 engineers. So which means a company typically will not need a large design team. So the designers tend to be sort of not in many amongst many designers. They tend to be on their own, and they have to fend and they have to think for themselves and they have to represent the entire design. So it can get quite tough for designers to be out there. So we find obviously this as a much better way to be as a designer, and that's what I've heard from all the people here. On my own, I, of course, I mean, I keep liking to learn. So I got myself a MBA from, there's a good college called IIM Bangalore. So I did my uh, MBA there. So it was again, it really helped me in terms of, in fact, I don't know how many of you all have done economics as a course, but I discovered economics as a subject during my MBA, and I think it's one of the best subjects in the world. And to me it is very close to design, because economics, if in its classical sense, is creating financial and service incentives to influence behavior of people. So that is what economics is. And design is essentially again influencing behavior of people through all the touch points that we have, whether it is objects or animations or graphics or the software side, digital aspects. So this understanding of a person or a end consumer, so that you can design for him. Again, economics plays very nicely into that. So many of our projects that we're doing currently, there is an economics angle to it. There is an angle saying that, how will you sell? What should be the pricing? How does it really, what service element can you bring into this particular product? And then this little bit of background in economics really helps in clearing those kind of thinking. Right. Like I said, many projects. So we did a lot of. So we started something called as innovation labs, which is where we are creating our own IP-led products that can be sold as a royalty-based thing. So this we did this thing called Chota Pay, which was the first sort of a digital small payment system. This was again done long before the current digital systems were in vogue. And whether it's a folding shoe or a new kind of a tea bag or ultrasonic washing instrument. So we just had fun going all over the place trying to create various kinds of projects. Right? Me and Chetan, we were talking about wayfinding systems. In fact, Chetan was very much a big part of this entire Bangalore Metro work that we do, which is on the top right image that you see. But otherwise, in terms of large projects, also what you'd realize is at this stage, we are doing fairly huge projects. So we are doing not just one airport, we'll do 10 airports at a time. We'll do all metro systems. One metro will have 50 stations. So almost all metros in India, almost all airports in India, we have done the signage and the wayfinding systems for them. We also transitioned, and now this is again one of our big businesses, which is experience centers, wherein we create an entire architectural space plus an ability to communicate a message. So whether it's a Microsoft Experience Center or a Tata Motors Experience Center, we will sort of bring in different elements of storytelling to be able to create this great consumer journey or a customer journey, where if if the top 20 customers are coming to meet the CEOs, you create this environment where the company can show off what it can do. So it becomes a marketing space. And again, as far as business is concerned, within our client organization, this is a different set of people. These are marketing folks that we are not directly interacting with so much. So now we could really get access those people to get a lot of this work. So now we have, at any given time, we have at least 4 experience center work going on. And these again tends to be great works because you really need to bring in everything together. You have to have the technological understanding to whether it is projection mapping or whether it is coordination between various lights, and you're going to create certain physical artifacts. You have to create the architecture, you have to create the stories and the animations. So all of it comes together to really be able to help this. So that becomes the experience center. So we do quite a bit of those. Right, so this is the Mumbai house. So quite a few of those. This is another very interesting project, and again we are doing more of this. So this was the entire passenger experience for Kochi Metro. So here our work was not limited to wayfinding signage. We also did all the station furniture. We did the vehicle livery, interiors, exteriors. We did the app. We did the brand. We did the logos. We did all other communication systems. We did their announcements. We did their uniforms. I mean, almost anything and everything that we could touch as a part of passenger experience, they asked us to do. So it was again a great project, and we won our first IF award for service design for this Kochi Metro project. Of course, we cannot be, sort of keep away from the entire digital aspect of it. So when the uh, Microsoft HoloLens first came out, this we created an entire HoloLens experience for the Geneva Motor Show. We had a virtual reality experience where again, yeah, we set up the 6 parallel systems where you could sit, you could choose any of the vehicles, completely transform it the way you want it, and then choose whether you want to drive it in New York or want to drive it in a hilly area or drive it in the desert, and go through the entire experience. So, uh, putting all of this together at the nuance level where the quality is still very good, again, is something that is interesting and is difficult and allows us to then really succeed beyond others. So when I say that, as for you to grow, your ability to influence or the span of influence should be larger and larger. This is what I mean. I mean, both these projects, this one and what you see is an augmented reality product that we created, and some of the wayfinding, all these projects are happening simultaneously. All of them, according to me, have been done very well. They have won awards, and I can claim complete, not just ownership, but a lot of impact on all these projects. So all the people who worked on it obviously did very well, but I know I could make a difference. So as a designer, your ability to create this larger impact really helps if you're able to trust, delegate, and move on to larger things. So I'll just move on. We are doing heavily a lot of digital experiences. So whether it is Sky Perfect is again a Japanese cable company. So creating an OTT experience for that. What you see on the left hand side is Sony Live, which is the entire OTT platform in India from Sony. Um, the bottom ones are the one in Middle East, that's NBC. And so many countries, we are doing the entire Netflix equivalent experience for other platforms. And of course, automotive has always been right from the start. So now we are doing a lot of AI integration. Design and AI have come together quite heavily in our company. And in this case, also the autonomous driving. How do I create great autonomous driving HMIs? How do I create great voice experiences? Or a complete new level of digital luxury that you see on the right side, where your instrument clusters are now completely customizable, configurable. And before, I mean, I know I'm sort of going on various projects. It's just that over the years we have done many such work, and the entire journey has been from simple products to more and more complex systems. And this is another example where we're not doing any single product at a for we are doing an entire product strategy. We are, so in this case there's a company called Polycab who are actually making, who are India's largest cable manufacturers, if you can believe that. So plastic cables that will go into your electrical system in your homes. And they had a lot of ambition, they had the entire new generation, they had a lot of money, and they didn't know what to do with all that. And so the entire ambition was to get into appliances. So trying to find out what is it that they can do in-house, since they have a lot of copper and those facilities, how they can create the next level of motors and other systems, but how other elements of products they can get it done from select vendors that we found for them, and then creating a series of products at different levels, and trying to jump over the competition by bringing connectivity. So we created this entire level of, magical experiences, connected future, and mass smart. So what kind of features the product should have, how they can be commonized across different product categories. Product categories change range from air conditioners to water heaters to fans and air purifiers. So why they should do it, how they should do it, what is the roadmap, how do we get around it. So all of that now became something that we are pursuing. And again, to me, it is still design, and it's just that now design is grown. It's more important, right? So similarly, this is something. Chroma is one of our India's largest electronic stores. So trying to create a complete digital strategy for them, from hybrid to phygital to online versus offline. Bringing all of it together. And yeah, that's the rest of me. I mean, I do joke around. Give, this was a talk that I'd given in Europe, and I have a kid who's now almost 18 years old, and that's me. So it's sort of a journey that I gave, and uh, I know we're slightly running short of time, but I put these two slides together to put some thoughts that I thought will may help you. So one is portfolio tips. Now, as a result of this 25 years in this company, and almost everybody in our company, at least in design, has been recruited by me, which means I must have gone through so many portfolios. So there are certain elements that I thought I would say which might help you. I have seen this, I've had this experience so many times that I would be looking at someone's portfolio. The first project, few slides are very good. Next project is very good. Third project is also very good. I say, oh wow, this fellow is in, right? Then there's a fourth project, which is okay, okay. Then there's a fifth project, which is rubbish. Then there's a sixth project, which is awesome. Then there's a seventh project, which is rubbish. So now I'm certainly concerned, because what it shows me is that this person is not able to judge quality of his own work. He has just dumped everything he has and is hoping that something will be liked, and hence he will, sort of qualify. And to me, what this translates into is, tomorrow when he's working for me, he's going to come to me and saying, see, I have done these four concepts. Which one should I take ahead? He will not have an opinion of his own. He will not be able to, or she will not be able to judge in terms of judge their own work in terms of what is good and what is not good. And this inability to judge is a very important aspect. It is not easy, because you need to then really be firm as to, as a creative person, you can always make 20 concepts, but it still is your job to find the correct concept for your client, and not the client's job to find the best work from what you could do for him, right? So this is an important part for me as a agency, that I have people who are able to have an opinion, are able to have a judge. So my suggestion would be that whatever you show in your portfolio, let it be really good quality stuff, and not just amounts of work you've done. Nobody's going to, nobody needs to know that you're a hardworking guy. I mean, that is taken for granted. So you don't have to prove your hard work by showing volumes of work. So this is my one tip. Then what I've seen again is, you'll have a great project, but you'll have a poor slide layout. So this inability to put things together to communicate is a big problem, because you cannot be a half designer. As a designer, it has to be holistic. You have to, whether it is selection of a font or selection of a radius, you have to be able to think on all dimensions at all levels. And that is very important, because it is not difficult at all. It's just that you've not bothered about it, and hence your slides are all over the place, right? And it's not just slide layout, it's just how you're telling the story about your work. So all that is important, which is the entire thing, quality at all levels, as I was talking about, right? And a few last or lasting thoughts. I mean, I don't know if you'll remember this. This is something that is very important. Like I said, after 25 years, I realized that you keep learning and you don't know where you're learning from. So as long as you know how to learn, I mean, that's the best that a college can give you, teaching you how to learn. Because all the stuff that I'm doing now, which I think I'm good at now, did not exist when I was learning in college. So which means almost everything I'm doing now is learned along the way. So that ability to learn allows you to be with time and really enjoy the times. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. So be happy to learn, right? And this is maybe controversial, maybe, but it's important for me. I mean, I'm calling it the God syndrome. What I mean by that is this assumption that we control everything. That, oh, if I take this class and if I go and talk to this professor and if I apply here and then if I do this, my life will be like this. So this assumption that I can control all the variables is just going to create more stress and this guilt that, instead of this I should have done that and my life would have been better. And what happens is you never do wholeheartedly what you're currently in. You're always trying to evaluate whether what you did was good enough or not. And then you keep getting into this downward spiral. So if you just trust the future, I mean, in my case, I just went with the flow and I did not resist anything. I just assumed that what will happen for the best. And I did everything wholeheartedly and it turned out very well for me. And I strongly believe that it will turn out very well for everybody without being too, control freak, if I can say that. And last bit is this, design is a profession. So I'll tell you what I mean by this, and I'll tell you what I tell some of the new kids who join our company for the first time. So I typically ask them, what are the three priorities that you think you should have while you're in Tata Elxsi? And they'll sort of not know. And I'll say, see, this is the topmost priority is towards your profession. The next priority is towards your customer on your project. And the last priority is towards the company. So they would still be confused. And I'll say, the way to think about it, and this is what I would also suggest to you, is imagine you're a heart surgeon. You're actually opening people's hearts and changing a valve or doing some kind of really complex operations. Now, if you've met any senior surgeons or one of these good doctors, you'd realize that they are always trying to become a better doctor. They are only, I mean, the entire focus is to how to keep getting better at what they do. And the hospital where they are doing their surgery is just a platform for them to perform their profession. It doesn't matter whether they're in hospital A or hospital B. They are not going to change. They will remain the great doctors that they are. It's just that the hospital has allowed them to perform their job. So similarly, design is your own thing. It is not the company's responsibility or your boss's responsibility to make sure that you are good as a designer. It is your responsibility. You have to take it as your own profession. And if you keep getting better at your own profession, things will just automatically be much, much better. Right? And I talked about this holistic designer. You cannot really assume key, oh, I'm just a graphic designer or I'm just a service designer, then I'll just do this. You need not have the skills to do a great 3D model or do an animation. But as a designer, you should be able to think what is an animation solution here and what is a messaging solution here and what's the product solution here. You should be able to think holistically because designers think in terms of what people want and what's the solution rather than what media or what way the solution has to exist. Right? So with that, thank you very, very much. And I don't know how much time we have, but otherwise I can take some questions.